What's up guys, Miles here with 9 to 5 Mac, and if you recently bought the new iPad Air or you have an 11-inch iPad Pro, this is definitely an accessory you're going to want to check out if you're looking for a docking station of some kind. This thing is legit. So, what are we looking at here? Well, this is the Hubble, and it's another great product from the folks over at Fledging who sent this over with an iPad Pro for us to check out. The Fledging Hubble combines a solid aluminum case with a USB 3.0 hub in one of the more interesting ways I've seen. And just for full transparency, this is a prototype model, so not everything you're seeing with this Fledging Hubble is likely to be final. And hopefully they do make some changes, because I've definitely got some notes. But overall, this is a really cool product for the iPad Air or Pro. And I'll show you why. The design is what makes this case so interesting because it's nearly got a completely modular design in a sense. If you want to experience the full folio plus the docking station in the case, you've got that. If you just want to experience the case with the docking station, you can remove the folio and just have the case and the USB-C hub. If you just want to experience the USB-C hub, you can take the iPad out of the case and then remove the USB-C hub. You can use it separately without the case. And having that versatility is very interesting. This prototype actually has a misplaced magnet in the folio, so whenever it's folded up all the way back, the iPad screen will actually turn off, but don't worry, Fledging says that'll be fixed with the final production units. And with this prototype, the Apple Pencil slit also doesn't sit perfectly straight on the iPad case here. It leans up a little bit, but Fledging says that'll be fixed as well. Overall, the general design feels very premium and protective. You've got these raised corner edge bumpers to help protect the iPad in case you were to drop it. And on the back side, you see there are two intentional looking cutouts on the Apple logo and on the magnets in the back here. And I asked Fledging about this, and they said they are working on keyboard compatibility as well as their own model, which should be very exciting because that would make this a really killer all-in-one solution, having a keyboard. As far as the USB-C hub aspect of the Hubble, it's a removable piece that, like I said, could be used entirely separate of the case if you wanted to. My only complaint about the Hubble itself is the removal method. You've got these two small hinges here on each side that can kind of be sturdy sometimes, and they're kind of sharp as well, so that definitely makes removing the Hubble kind of unpleasant. I talked to Fledging about this, and they did say that the final production units are going to have a smoother removal method, which I would definitely say is a necessity here because it is not a great feeling every time I have to try to pry this off. One cool design aspect of the Hubble are these two little divots here on each end because it makes sure that you're not compromising the speaker quality in any way, which is a nice touch. When taking a look at the I/O itself, we firstly got an on and off switch, and this is an important switch because if you leave this on when you're not using it, the dock will most definitely drain the battery. I think it can easily kill the iPad Pro or Air in about a day and a half of being on standby with the dock still on. Fledging says that the 2.0 model of the Hubble should have an auto off function when you're not using the device. So in the future, you shouldn't have to remember to turn it off. But for now, unfortunately, you're gonna have to. It's not that big of a deal. It's something that you kind of get used to after a while, but it's something I personally wish they could have had out the gate. Next to the power switch is a 30-watt USB Type-C port that you'll be using for power delivery. And this port only supports charging, so no data transfer through this power delivery port right here. The Type-C port next to that is USB 3 enabled and supports data transfer speeds up to 5 gigabits per second. There's also a USB-A 3.0 port that supports the 5 gigabit per second speeds as well. Then we've got a micro and full-size SD card slots. They're only UHS 1 enabled, so you're not going to get those crazy fast UHS 2 speeds. You're going to be getting around 100 megabytes per second transfer speeds, but that's perfectly fine, I think, for anyone using an iPad Pro. And then there's an HDMI port that supports display mirroring to a 4K display at up to 60 Hz, and then a 3.5mm headphone jack. And with that, you've got a pretty healthy set of I/O, especially for use on an iPad Pro. So I tested out the Hubble for some of my productivity workflows. That includes editing videos off of an SSD, importing raw photos to Adobe Lightroom, and plugging in a USB microphone for voice recording. For editing video off of an external SSD, it's quite apparent that using the Hubble isn't exactly as fast as just plugging in an SSD straight into the iPad itself. It's been pretty inconsistent, this Fledging Hubble, but sometimes it took a few minutes to simply import a few gig-and-a-half video files from my EOS R5 on the external SSD, and other times it took 10 to 20 seconds to import those files. I think it just depends on what kind of files you're working with, but overall I would say that using the Hubble could limit your efficiency at getting work done at the fastest rate. I think, like I said, it just depends on what exactly you're trying to transfer. I plugged in my SD card to see how it would be importing raw photos from my EOS R5 into Adobe Lightroom. And at first when I tested it out, it was pretty dang slow, almost to the point of being unusable for me. But I tried it again the next day after a reboot, and everything seemed to be working a lot better. And overall, I'd say that the Hubble would be a great device to use as importing raw photos, to do some quick edits on Adobe Lightroom. I think it works great for that. I tried plugging in a USB-C microphone to record some voiceovers in the Voice Memos app, and that worked perfectly fine. I didn't have to configure anything. It was pretty much just plug and play, recognizing that microphone through the Type-C port. I also plugged in my Logitech unifying receiver into the USB-A port to test the Bluetooth connectivity with my keyboard and mouse combo from Logitech, and that worked perfectly fine as well. No complaints there. As far as testing out that HDMI port, unfortunately I don't have a straight up 4K display other than my LG Ultrafine, which won't work through the iPad through anything other than a direct connection. But I tested it out with my 27-inch 1440p monitor, and that worked just fine. I will say monitor use with an iPad is already as limited as can be, but through that HDMI port, you're not losing any functionality. The Fledging Hubble as a concept is really cool, and I feel as though once they have all the kinks ironed out, they'll have a really great product on their hands, because there straight up isn't really anything else out there in a package like this made for both the iPad Pro and the Air. And so if you're looking for something for doing light tasks like transferring documents, or just need something to make your iPad Pro a more functional productivity assistant, I'd say this is a great option. It's definitely something I'm going to want to bring with me on the go. The Hubble's still currently up on Kickstarter, so there isn't a final retail price or ship date just yet, but the project's been fully funded, well over fully funded, so I imagine this should be something you could get your hands on fairly soon. So for now, I'll link the Kickstarter page in the description below where you can check it out. There's a Q&A where they might have some answers to a question you may have. And then when it's fully available to buy, I will update the description with that new link where you can purchase it. But for now, that's about it for this one. Thank you, Fledging, for letting me test this out. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for future content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.